The combat power of some Pokemon have been caught and listed below. We're going to estimate the CP, the mean CP, and the standard deviation. So this is a grouped data because we now have 45 Pokemon in the class of 0 to 199, 28 Pokemon in the class from 200 to 399, so on and so forth. So we've grouped those Pokemon together into what are called classes. Okay. We need to create some more columns like we did in the previous example. I will do that below the box here itself. The classes are not going to be the X's. The class average will be the X's. The class average is found by taking, that's a G there, I promise. You take the lower class limit, you add the upper class limit, and divide by a healthy 2. Bink. So for our first one, we would say 0 plus 199 divided by 2. And that gives us 99.5. So that's our first X value. So the second one would be 200 plus 399 over 2. Gives us 299.5. If we continued with that, we would get 499.5, 699.5, 899.5. I'm not going to make it, and 1099.5. I made it. Oh, I put a decimal too soon. Now you don't see. That's good. So we have the number of Pokemon will actually be the frequency. And as we just found, the class average there is X. So with that stated, remember the mean is given by the sum of the frequency times X divided by the sum of the frequency. You, I know, enjoy the fact that I wrote F 2 different ways. So we will have the frequency 45 times its X value 99.5 plus the next one 28 times 299.5 plus dot 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 all the way down to 2, the frequency of the last class, times 1099.5 all over the sum of the frequencies 45, 28, 19, all the way down to 2. So again, you should be comfortable putting that in the calculator. Just please make sure you have parentheses around the numerator and denominator. Again, since this is a grouped data and we don't know what Pokemon has exactly what combat power, we cannot say that this mean is exact. It's an approximation at best. We're going to now use Excel to do our dirty work for us. I'm going to keep the headings there because we're going to need that for later. But our value, these are our class average. I'm going to type those in. And the frequency is the next column. Okay. So for this one, we need to do F times X So remember, that means we need to multiply 99.5 times 45. So we'll say equals A2 times B2. And it highlights the cells that we're multiplying, and we'll hit enter. So that's the first product. And remember, we'll click on this, click on the little box, and drag down. So in the numerator, we need the sum of f times x. So making sure those cells are highlighted, we are now going to hit the sum key, and below that is the sum of all those f's times x, 36,545. Divided by the sum of all the f's. There's not too many there. You can do that by hand, or you can make Excel do it as well. Highlight your F column, hit the sigma key, and notice the sum is 110. So in your calculator, you'll do 36,545 divided by 110. We get an ugly decimal here. Let's round this to 2 places. I'll tell you on the test how far to round. 332.23. So the average combat power is 332.23. Great. So that is the mean. Now we're going to do the same thing again for standard deviation. This time, though, we're going to do it all in terms, all in Excel. Keep this number, the 332.23, in mind, because we're going to need that. Notice that that is an approximation, which unfortunately does throw off the standard deviation a little bit, but for our purposes, it's totally fine. Okay, so let's go back to Excel. So our first thing we're going to do is say x minus the average. So we're going to say the x value, which is A2, the very first one, minus that 332.23. So we'll say equals A2, and notice it highlights the cell, minus 332.23, and hit enter. Don't freak out that it's negative. It's going to be okay. Click back in that box, take that square, drag down. Don't go all the way down because we don't care about that last one. Great. And now click on the next column, the E2. We want to square what's in the D column. So we'll say equals D2 times D2. So to multiply by itself means to square. We'll hit enter. We get a glorious number. Aren't you glad you're making Excel do this? Click back in that box. Drag down. Ugh, that's horrible. You're welcome. And now we'll want the frequency, which is the B column, and we'll multiply it by the E column. So we'll say equals B2 times E2. And we'll hit enter. We'll cry a little bit because that's horrible. Click on that box. Drag down. As we did before, I forgot to write it down. As we did before, we need the sum of this guy to be the numerator of our standard deviation. So while that column is highlighted, except for that first cell there, click on the sum key, and you get this fantastic, glorious number that's fantastic and glorious. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the slide and erase what we don't need. And recall the standard deviation for a sample is given by the square root of the sum of the frequencies times x minus the average squared all over the sum of the frequencies and then minus 1. Again, this is considered one term in here, and we got one term in here. Okay, So from our calculations, our numerator is a glorious, wait for it, where is that number? Right there. So I don't even want to say that out loud. That's just terrible. 7, oh my gosh, 708. Oh, I'll do that. 708. 2181. Point. We'll round it again. We'll say 82. That's fine. Divided by the sum of the frequencies. Again, you can go back to Excel and make Excel do it. If you highlight your... Oh, we already did that. We got 110. So the sum of the frequencies was 110. That's nice. Minus 1. I'm going to make my square root a little bit better because I want to make sure that we take the square root of everything. Oh, now that's thicker there. Oh my God, the humanity. So what I suggest you do is instead of writing 110 minus 1, please write that as 109. So now in the calculator, we'll do the square root of that glorious number. And we get a lovely 254.90 as the standard deviation. So remember, standard deviation in layman's term is how spread out the data is. The range, it goes from 0 to 1100, 99, almost 1200 there. So a sixth of that is the standard deviation. Ugh, fun.